My wife Saeed, my family comes first, always. So when her brother asked for money again, I finally told her to choose. My wife handed her brother $4,000 from our savings account without asking me. When I found out, she said, "My family comes first, always." So I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Then go live with them." 3 weeks later, she was served divorce papers at her brother's apartment. If you've ever loved someone who treated your marriage like a side hustle to fund her brother's chaos, stick around, because this one gets ugly fast. I'm Mark, 34. My wife Jenna is 32. We'd been together 6 years, married for 4. On paper, we looked solid. 2 incomes, a townhouse, a dog, date nights on Fridays. The kind of couple your friends call the stable ones. What nobody saw was the slow financial bleeding happening behind the scenes, courtesy of her younger brother Derek. Derek is 29 and has never held a job longer than 8 months. Not because work doesn't exist, because Derek doesn't believe rules apply to him. He's had 3 business ideas in the last 5 years. A vending machine route that lasted 2 months. A crypto trading account that lost 12 grand of borrowed money. And most recently, a dropshipping store that never shipped a single product. Every single one of these disasters ended the same way. Derek calling Jenna crying, and Jenna quietly moving money to save him. I found out about the first 2 loans by accident, checking a shared statement. 4,000 here, 2,800 there. When I asked her about it, she got defensive immediately. He's my brother. What was I supposed to do? Let him get evicted? I said fine. Family helps family. But next time, we talk about it first. She agreed. She lied. Fast forward to 3 months ago. I'm going through our joint savings to plan a vacation, and I notice $4,000 missing. Not spent on anything I recognized. Just gone, in one withdrawal, on a Tuesday afternoon. I asked her about it that night over dinner. Casual at first, because I genuinely thought maybe I was missing something. "Hey, did you take 4 grand out of savings last week?" She didn't even look up from her plate. Derek needed help with rent. He's between jobs again. Between jobs. Again. And you just took it? No conversation? Nothing? I didn't think it was a big deal. It's $4,000, Jenna, from our account. For rent I've never seen a receipt for. She set her fork down, and I watched her face shift into that expression I'd started to recognize. The one that meant she was about to make this my fault. "You're really going to interrogate me over helping my own brother? He's family, Mark. I'm your family too. Or at least I thought that's how this worked." And that's when she said it. The sentence that's been living rent-free in my head ever since. My family comes first, always. That's not going to change because you're uncomfortable with it. I sat there for a second, letting that land. Not, "We're a team." Not, "I should have asked you." Just a flat declaration that whatever loyalty existed in this marriage, I was standing behind her brother in the line. I didn't blow up. I've learned that blowing up just gives people an excuse to make you the villain of their own story. So I just nodded slowly and said, "Good to know where I rank." She rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. "Don't be like that. You know what I mean? I actually don't. Explain it to me. If it ever came down to a real choice between me and Derek, who wins?" She hesitated. Just half a second, but I caught it. That's not a fair question. It's the only question that matters right now. She didn't answer. Got up, put her plate in the sink, and went upstairs. I sat at that table for a long time, replaying every small loan, every excuse, every time I'd let it slide because I didn't want to be the guy who fought his wife over her brother's bad decisions. That night, I didn't sleep much. Somewhere around 2 a.m., I made a decision. I wasn't going to keep absorbing this. If Derek was going to keep treating our marriage like an ATM, something had to change. And it wasn't going to be me quietly accepting fewer and fewer dollars in my own savings account. The next morning, I called my cousin Ray, who'd gone through a rough divorce 2 years back and still had his lawyer's number saved. Told him what happened. He didn't sugarcoat it. "Man, that's not a one-time thing. That's a pattern. You need to protect yourself before you have a real conversation, not after. Took his advice. Called the lawyer, a guy named Frank Alvarez, set up a consultation for later that week. Didn't tell Jenna. Not yet. Over the next few days, things at home were tense but quiet. She acted like the conversation never happened. I acted the same, gathering documents in the background. Bank statements showing every transfer to Derek over the past 2 years. It added up to almost $19,000. $19,000 of our combined money funneled to a grown man who couldn't keep a job at a smoothie shop. Friday morning, my phone buzzed. Jenna's name. I was at work, so I let it go to voicemail. Listened to it on my lunch break. Hey, Derek called. He's in a tight spot again. His landlord is threatening eviction for real this time, like he has 3 days. I know we just talked about this, but I told him I'd help. I'm going to transfer some money from savings today. Just wanted you to know. Love you. Just wanted you to know. Not asking. Informing. Like I was a coworker being CC'd on a decision that had already been made. I called Frank right after. Told him what was happening in real time. Can I freeze that account before she moves anything else? Depends on how the account's set up, but generally, yes, either party can act on a joint account unless there's a specific hold. If you want to protect what's left, go to the bank today. I left work early. Drove straight to the bank. The teller, a woman named Priya, pulled up our account and confirmed the balance. $14,000 and change was still sitting there. I asked what my options were. She explained that as a joint account holder, I could restrict withdrawals to require both signatures, or I could simply move my portion into a personal account. I chose the second option. Opened a new account under just my name and transferred half the remaining balance immediately. The other half I left, because legally it wasn't just mine to take, but at least it couldn't disappear entirely without her noticing something had changed. Got home before she did. Sat on the couch with a beer, waiting. She walked in around 6, saw my face, and immediately got defensive before I'd said a single word. Before you start, Derek really needed it this time. He would have been on the street. I moved half our savings into a personal account today. She froze mid-step. You did what? I protected what's left of our money, since apparently you and I have very different definitions of ours. You can't just take money out without telling me. Interesting. That's exactly the sentence I've been waiting to say to you for the last 2 years. Her face went red. This is different. That's family emergencies. No, Jenna. Family emergencies are once, twice, maybe, if it's really bad luck. This is the 5th time in 2 years. Derek doesn't have emergencies. Derek has a lifestyle, and you're the trust fund paying for it. He's my brother, and I'm your husband. You told me, and I quote, family comes first, always. I heard you loud and clear. So here's your chance to actually mean something by it. Choose. Choose what? Choose who you're actually married to. Because right now, every time Derek calls crying, you empty our accounts without blinking. And every time I bring it up, you make me the bad guy for wanting a say in my own finances. That's not a marriage. That's a subscription service for your brother's bad decisions, and I'm done being the subscriber. She stared at me, stunned that I wasn't backing down like I usually did. You're being insane over $4,000. It's not $4,000. It's $19,000 over 2 years, and it's the fact that you'll never stop unless someone makes you. So, choose. Him or this marriage. Because I'm not doing both anymore. She didn't answer. Just grabbed her keys and left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames in the hallway. Didn't come back until almost midnight. I was already in the guest room, door locked. She knocked twice, said nothing, and eventually gave up. The next morning, I called Frank back. Told him I wanted to move forward with a formal separation and eventually a divorce if she didn't change course. You want to try counseling first, or are we filing? Let's start the paperwork. If she comes around, we can always pause it. But I'm not waiting around while my savings account funds someone else's rent. Frank started drafting. Told me to keep documenting everything, every transfer, every text, every excuse. Judges love patterns, he said. One bad decision looks like a mistake. 5 looks like a lifestyle you were subsidizing without consent. 3 days later, Jenna tried a new approach. Came home with takeout, my favorite, and acted like nothing had happened. I talked to Derek. He's going to start paying us back a little each month. How much has he ever paid back before? Silence. Right. So this time will be different because you said so? Can you at least meet me halfway here? I said I was sorry. You didn't apologize. You informed me you already gave him more money and then negotiated a fake repayment plan after I caught you. She sighed, dramatic and long, the kind of sigh designed to make you feel like the unreasonable one. You're acting like I committed a crime. You took money out of a shared account to support someone who's proven for years he won't change, after I specifically asked you to talk to me first. That's not a crime. It's just a breach of trust, which, coincidentally, marriages tend to run on. She left the room again. That became the pattern for the next week. Small attempts at reconciliation that always circled back to defending Derek, followed by cold silence when I didn't cave. Then came the family intervention, because of course it did. Her mother, Diane, called me directly, which she'd never done in 6 years of knowing her. Mark, honey, I think you're overreacting. Family helps family. That's how we were raised. With all due respect, Diane, I've helped Derek plenty. $19,000 worth of help, over 2 years, none of it repaid, most of it without my knowledge. At some point, help becomes enabling. He's had a hard time finding his footing. He's 29. Most people his age have found footing by now, or at least stopped asking their sister to bankroll their rent every 4 months. You're being cruel. I'm being accurate. There's a difference. She hung up on me. 10 minutes later, Jenna's sister Wendy texted, calling me controlling and heartless. I didn't respond. Frank had already told me not to engage on those side channels. Every text is potential evidence, he said. Let them dig their own hole. Update, about 2 weeks in. Filed the separation paperwork officially. Jenna was served at, of all places, Derek's apartment, where she'd apparently been staying part-time to get some space, which really meant hiding from the situation while still funneling him support. She called me the second the papers arrived, furious. You served me at my brother's place? Are you trying to humiliate me? I served you where you were staying. If that's humiliating, maybe reconsider where you're staying. This is insane. We could have talked about this like adults. We tried that. Multiple times. You chose Derek every single time. I'm just making the choice official. You're really ending our marriage over my brother? No. I'm ending our marriage because you decided a long time ago that your brother's comfort mattered more than my trust, and you never once considered changing that, even after I asked directly. She didn't have a response for that one. 2 days later, Derek called me. First time he'd ever called me directly in 6 years. Bro, this is messed up. You're breaking up a family over some money. Derek, I've given your family $19,000 of my own household income over 2 years. I think I've contributed enough to keep it intact. It's not that deep, man. Family helps family. Then maybe get a job that lasts longer than a season and help yourself. This isn't about you specifically. It's about the fact that my wife will lie to my face and drain shared accounts to fund your bad decisions. And every time I ask her to stop, she tells me you come first. That's not sustainable for a marriage. So you're punishing her because I need help sometimes. I'm holding her accountable for choosing you over honesty in her own marriage, repeatedly. Those are different things. He hung up on me, which honestly was the most self-aware thing he'd done in years. Update 3, about 5 weeks in. The financial disclosures for the separation came in, and this is where things got interesting. Turns out Derek's landlord eviction emergency, the one that prompted the $4,000 withdrawal that started all this, never actually happened. Frank's paralegal found no eviction filings anywhere under Derek's name in that time frame. No court records, nothing. Just a story. I brought this up with Jenna through our lawyers. since we were barely speaking directly by then. Her response, relayed through her attorney. She was unaware of any discrepancy and believed her brother's account of events. Translation: she never checked. She just handed over money the second Derek cried, the same way she had every single time before. Meanwhile, Diane tried one more guilt trip, showing up at my office unannounced. You're really going to let her lose everything over pride? She's not losing everything. She's losing a marriage to someone who wanted to be an actual priority in it. That's different from losing everything. You could forgive this, you know. People make mistakes. One mistake, sure. This was a pattern she chose to protect instead of fix, even after I gave her multiple chances. I'm not the villain for finally drawing a line. Diane left without another word, which was progress compared to previous attempts. The mediation itself was almost anticlimactic. Since we didn't have kids, and the house was solely in my name from before the marriage, the biggest sticking point was the remaining joint savings and whether Derek's loans counted as marital debt or her individual gift-giving. My lawyer argued, successfully, that unilateral transfers to a third party without spousal consent, made after an explicit prior agreement to communicate first, shouldn't be treated as standard marital spending. The mediator agreed. She kept the money already given to Derek as her responsibility. I kept what remained in the account I'd moved. She tried, briefly, to argue that I should cover some of Derek's outstanding gambling debt, because apparently there was gambling debt too, something I hadn't even known about until discovery. My lawyer's response was short. My client isn't financing a stranger's poor decisions, and Derek is functionally a stranger to this marriage's finances. Final update: about 10 weeks after the pasta-adjacent dinner where this all started, the divorce was finalized quietly. No dramatic courtroom scene, no shouting matches, just paperwork and silence. She moved into a small apartment. Last I heard, Derek moved in with her for a few months before finding his own place, which really meant finding another sister-shaped safety net somewhere else, since his actual apartment situation apparently fell apart entirely, eviction filings and all, right around the time our money stopped flowing. I ran into Wendy at the grocery store a few weeks later, awkward as expected. "How's Jenna doing?" I asked, mostly out of habit, not real curiosity. "About as well as you'd expect. Derek's staying with her again. He owes her almost $6,000 now, too." I didn't say anything, but on the inside, I felt something click into place. She got exactly what she wanted. Family first, always. Just now, it was her only family and her only bank account absorbing the consequences. I don't feel triumphant about any of this, honestly. There's no confetti moment where you feel like you won. What I feel is lighter. For 2 years, I carried this quiet, creeping resentment every time money disappeared and every time I was told, directly or indirectly, that I ranked below a man who couldn't keep a job at a smoothie counter. Ending that wasn't revenge. It was just finally refusing to be the invisible line item in someone else's family loyalty. People keep asking if I regret how fast I moved once I decided. I don't. She had 2 years of chances disguised as small transfers and soft apologies. The night she looked me in the eye and said her family comes first. Always. Without hesitation. Without even considering how that sentence landed on the person she was legally bound to. That was the moment the decision basically made itself. I just needed a few weeks to build the paperwork around it. These days, my savings account